I will tell you one thing, Pete. I can feel your pain. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, even though it was 1970, that my father had problems, and the bills started mounting from it. And I'll tell you something, back in 1970, even with health insurance, my father was one of the people that stood up and wanted to know why it cost $10 for an aspirin at a hospital and fought for it, even though he wasn't paying for it. You know, the medical profession is a very strange thing. I mean, you go to the doctor, you go to the hospital, and you wonder why it costs so much. The reason it costs so much is because of malpractice insurance. And the reason malpractice insurance is so much is because of the lawyers. It all lands down to the people and the lawyers. I don't know if you realize it, but malpractice insurance is like $1 million plus for some of these doctors. And that's why when you go to the emergency room, you'll see a doctor there. He might go there once a week or whatever it is, so the hospitals can absorb his malpractice insurance. Because there's no way these doctors can pay for it on their own and then just treat you out of their office. It's just impossible. So basically, I mean, if you break it down, most of the bill you're paying is the malpractice insurance because of scammy people that just want to make a profit. You know, doctor looked at me strange. Okay, I'm suing. Doctor did this, I'm suing. I'm suing. I'm suing. I'm suing. And you got people like that, and then you got the greedy lawyers, and this is what you wind up with. You wind up with someone that can't go to the doctor because you don't have health insurance. Or even if they do accept you, you'll be paying the bills off the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's not all the doctor's fault because you never even come in contact with the doctor talking about, you know, having the work done or whatever it is. They're just following procedures in the hospital or the doctor's office or wherever they work, you know? And believe it or not, it's all dictated by politics and lawyers. So it's not always the hospital. They're just covering themselves. You know, they're a business like any other business. Do I think that the way it's turned out and how it's come down to this, is it a crime? Of course it's a crime. I mean, as an American, we should be ashamed that it's like this. You know what I mean? I'm proud to be an American, but I'm not proud of what America does. And I think we do take care of people that aren't legals. And this isn't a video about talking about illegals, but it's a video about talking about taking care of our own. And if it doesn't piss you off enough that shit like this happens, just sit down and watch TV with your family and see the commercials come on for 30 cents a month. I can take care of somebody in another country. Fuck the other country. This is our country. You know what I mean? But the sad part is, it's all politics. Okay? The middle class will always get shafted. The middle class has no power. Okay, they'll always steal from the middle class because the upper class has the power, and the upper class control the politicians. And the politicians are the upper class. So they're not going to come and fight for you. They don't give a crap about you. They don't give a crap about me. You know, you're not rioting in the street. And you're not rioting in the street because you don't have the time to riot in the street. Because you're working every day, like you say, like I do, to pay your bills, so you're not in the street. I mean, I think this country needs a reset button and get us back where we were, okay? All the bullshit and all the rights for people that aren't even citizens is ridiculous. You know what? You want to come to the country? My grandparents came to the country, and I'm sure other people's grandparents or parents or themselves came to the country. That's fine. But right now, the country's full, and we can't figure out what to do with our own. So it's time to temporarily shut everything down and fix it. But that's too complicated. You know, because we're worried about one poor kid getting shot and the president going to see the family. You know what? It's sad. But he's not coming to my door. You know what I'm saying? He picks and chooses the wrong shit. So, like I said, it's all a big circle jerk. Back in the early 70s, father became ill. That's how I feel your pain. Okay? And it started out with him losing sight in one eye, then he lost sight in his other eye, so he became permanently handicapped. At the time, he was working for Full Brush, had medical insurance, but still, insurance was different back then, so the bills mounted. I have 3 brothers, and my mother didn't work. My mother wasn't allowed to work. That's the way it was back then. So then, to keep the house and the family, my mom gets a job during the day and goes to school at night so she can better herself. Meanwhile, we got public assistance, welfare, or whatever it was. I think it was a total, could be mistaken, I think it was a total of 6 months. All well and done, you know. My mother did what she had to do. My father made pens, put pens together to bring in some money to keep the family together. Okay? They didn't want no handouts. They didn't want nothing from nobody. They paid the bills the best they could. Many of the doctors didn't even accept money from them back then because, you know, they knew how, you know, bad off we were. Okay? To make it even worse, when the welfare or public assistance was over, my mother got a bill from them because they said they overpaid us. And my mother had to pay that money back. Think about that. She had to pay that money back. And you got people driving it around in the back of trucks, getting free health insurance, free everything. Yeah, people say you pay taxes when they buy a soda, but damn it, they're not getting 30% taken out of their check each week. And my mother had to pay it back so they can get the money when they spit out another kid. You know, my mother didn't get pregnant again and live off public assistance and all the crap that they seem to play today. You know what I mean? Because there's no limit to any of this stuff. You could just keep going and going and going and they hand you more and more money. But back then, you played by the rules. They overpaid her. My mother paid it back. My mother was proud to pay it back. Okay? All my mother and father wanted to do was keep the house, keep their kids, and educate their kids through college, which they did. And the sad part of it was that, the sad part of it was that 6 months after my father paid off the house, I had finally moved out, okay? Bought myself a house, built an apartment in it to take care of my mother and father so nobody else would have to do it, and they could live stress-free, and he made it another 8 months. So he spent approximately 27 of his years still paying off those medical bills, bear in mind, because losing his sight was the least of it. As time went on, he got aneurysms. He wound up having, he had an aneurysm behind the stomach, the heart, the legs, the arms, everywhere. So, I mean, the bills mounted. The bills were always there. So, they spent the next 27 years paying off those bills, too. So, when it was all said and done, he wound up passing away, leaving a load of bills, and that was it. So, it's good to be the middle class, the working schmo, you know? This is what it gets you. It gets you scenery like this, but you can't afford the boat to go out on the water. Think about that. I feel there's a problem when you do something for a living and you can't afford to buy the product. Okay? Just think about those words. When you do something for somebody, you repair something for somebody, or you work on something for somebody, you build something for somebody, and you can't afford to own it yourself, there's a definite problem.